Okay, hello everyone. I think we are live. Looks like we are live. I want to say thank you to everyone who is with us here. Just one second, let me check. Live. Now it looks like we are live. Okay. One second. Okay, everyone. Thank you guys for being with us today. I just want to say, because I never start like this, but I appreciate all of you watching us, me and Andrei Martyanov, who is my guest today. And joining us for this conversation because you give us your attention, and I think this will be an important conversation we will have. Welcome back, Andrei. I'm very, very grateful for your time again, being
My
with me.
pleasure, Anya. Yeah.
Everything to find Andrei as far as his books and his blog as well. All the links you already have below the live, and I will attach also in the pinned comment section after we finish. You might ask some questions if we have time. Maybe Andrei will answer it. But I would like to start, Andrei, with the current update with Ukraine, and then we go into history, as the title of this live says. Well, first, let me say this. Now, I actually seen on Polish media, they start to report about this radioactive cloud that's flying over Poland. We know from which direction. And I would like to ask you now, as I haven't really focused on this today, were there some major explosions taking place in Kiev last night? So if you can give me some update, what's going on now at this moment?
I mean, at this moment, I don't know, just in this particular moment, but since yesterday, there were waves of the Russian standoff weapons, both subsonic and hypersonic, and this is classic SIAD. I actually made a video today about it. It's called the suppression of enemy air defense. And this time, Russia decided to do it well in terms of really getting to the bottom of it. And bottom of it is annihilating whatever the air defense complexes, including the Patriot complex of the United States. And they just did it, I mean, which is absolutely expected outcome. And I am on the record, not just throughout this special military operation, I'm on record for years. I wrote 3 books about it. First 2 specifically pointing out to this, that whatever the systems will be provided to Ukraine by Washington and NATO, I mean, it makes no difference whatsoever. The moment you turn on a radar and something like Patriot, you're done, So, and that was demonstrated perfectly. And this is preparation, who knows? I think so. It's preparation for something major, but we'll see, how it goes. Again, I hate to be Cassandra.
Okay. So when you say something major, what do you mean by that?
I mean it Russian type of operations. So, and difficult to say in terms of, we have to consider the fact that Russia right now has around 600,000 troops in reserves. They're still in training, or they are kind of resting after rotation from the front line. And when you have that amount of troops, that number of troops, and that is just absolute huge amount of armor and air force and standing there, it's obviously for something major. It could be obviously the fact that Russia's still in the holding pattern, expecting some kind of the suicide from NATO, and those troops will be used there. But it could be the fact that Russians will decide just to go all the way down and just throw whatever is remaining of the armed forces of Ukraine beyond the Dnieper, and then maybe even further, So that's the major thing. What we have for now, basically Russia sitting in the strategic defense and doing her thing, which is allowing the whatever is left of Ukrainian and NATO forces to impale themselves. There you go.
So here are 2 things, Andrei. Just before we connected today, I actually watched the interview with Colonel Douglas McGregor with Don Jr. Trump. And in that interview, I am not sure if I remember that number exactly. The colonel said that Russia is prepared for 31 months of this war. I might get this number wrong, but I think I got it right.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, there is
What did he mean, if I can ask you? What did he really mean by that? 31 months, which means what? What is it? 3 years?
He refers to the communications by that time. Chief of, not by that, he still is General Rudskoy. He is a brain after Mr. Gerasimov of the Russian General Staff. He is the chief of the GO, which means Главное оперативное управление, main operational directorate there. And he was talking about at the start of a special military operation that generally it wasn't about blitzkrieg, it was about for the duration of about 31 months, which is roughly 2.5 years, because and the planning and the whole thing was done in a classic Russian deliberate manner, and nobody wanted to do a stupid thing which Washington wanted Russia to do, to run over, the Ukrainian forces, get itself this failure of a country with a hostile population. And, that was the idea. Russians didn't do that.
Now we also had, just very recently, I actually said in my last video that Belarus put missiles, Polonez and Tochka, I still remember the name, next to the Polish border. I want to ask your opinion here. I know it all depends what the Polish-speaking government is doing. I understand. We know this, Andrei. But in your sense, how do you think this will go in that region with Belarus?
There is a school of thought, and it's actually being pushed by all kinds of the intel services from NATO. It's they evidently do not learn, which is not surprising considering who works there anymore. The school of thought is that Lukashenko is failing. I mean, they say that he is sick and all that, and it could be true, And the idea is that, because he's failing, let's start again. Let's energize the so-called opposition. In reality, they are Western shills and stooges financed by all kinds of the NGOs and intel services. And let's try to do this orange revolution or Maidan in Belarus again. And the idea was that if something goes wrong, an opposition will be suppressed, and it will be, that the Polish troops might have get involved and things of this nature. So Russia already plays there. There is a division size force in Belarus from Russia, deployed there. There are about 70,000 of their troops, ground forces of Belarus itself. So, and Belarus just doing its whatever rounds, so to speak, to show that we are ready, we know what is going on. So if anybody tries to go, you will have the response. But the point is that Belarus is secondary even in this respect, because it is all about Russia. And Russia and Belarus, no matter what Mr. Lukashenko does or no matter what opposition does, it's for many years now the unified state, union state. Many people forget about it. That Belarus, Mr. Lukashenko loves to talk about a lot of things, but in reality, he is nobody without Russia. He knows that. Without Russia, he will be done. And judicially, so to speak, in a legal way, Russia and Belarus are unified state. So one can basically make all necessary conclusions from this fact.
So now I would like to go into history, and then we will go back to the current times, Andrei. I want to start with some history from my notes.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that I knew about and something that I didn't know about, and I want to read it because it's quite important. We keep on learning those things. So, as everyone knows, September 1st, the Third Reich, which is the Austrian painter, who created the Austrian painter, that's another subject.
Mm-hmm.
They went into Poland. The Second World War officially started. Now, I didn't know this. I just came across this, that there were two other countries that actually invaded Poland in the same month of September. It was Slovakia, that was a satellite country in that time, under Austrian painter influence, and they had 50,000 troops, and they went into Poland just shortly after September 1st. And then we had actually Ukraine that also invaded Poland on the 12th of September. And who was this? Well, we had Canaris, who apparently was the leader of Abwera, and
Yeah.
he was a British agent. And we had Mielnik, if I pronounce, from OUN, from Ukraine.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so Ukrainians come in. Why they come in, which I didn't know, I just learned this, because they knew Austrian painter, I don't want to use his name, Austrian painter allowed them to enter Poland because Nazis, German, Third Reich, already knew that the pact Ribbentrop-Molotov might not quite be respected by Stalin. And this is long intro, but this is important point in history. Yes, on the 17th of September, we had Soviet army entering Poland. However, it looks like that was in reaction to the Ukrainian army that was already, not army, Ukrainian groups that were already there. So here is my question, Andrei. I'm trying to understand all of this as best as I can and help not just myself, but Polish people who maybe are watching this. Let's start with this. Why Stalin signed Pact Ribbentrop-Molotov, which was actually, it was in August 1939. Was it because he was trying to buy some time and prevent that region? It's just my thinking, like trying to have some buffer for some time, because then in 1941, it was broken. So let me ask you first, why he signed it in the first place?
Okay, I can actually quote for you right now one of the greatest English language military historian of all time. He recently deceased, sadly, last year, Mr. Corelli Barnett. And Mr. Corelli Barnett, apart from being an outstanding historian, and he wrote this trilogy, and one of them is Collapse of the British Power, obviously. And he was the chair of the Shakespearean Studies in England. This is like, cannot get any higher than that in terms of literature. So let me quote it him from his The Collapse of British Power. It's outstanding book. Let me find this quote because I think so. I have it handy. Let me just see if I have it handy, and if I can do, I will be able to read it for you. Let me see. No, here it is. Let me put it this way. Here it is. Here you have to remember that prior to 1939, prior to Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, prior to all of that, Russia, at that time Soviet Union, and Mr. Molotov and Mr. Stalin and Mr. Litvinov also before Molotov, there was a lot of talk of the what collective security, precisely European collective security, precisely designed to contain Hitler and Nazi Germany. Well, guess what? You can read this in wonderful Alexander Werth and among other many English-speaking historians what France and Great Britain were doing. Instead of taking seriously those negotiations, they were sending literally majors and lieutenant colonels to talk to Moscow. That means what? They were basically, spitting in the face of the Soviet Union. It is extremely well described, as I already stated, in Alexander Werth, his famous Russia at War, but also the other reputable historians, including by Kareli Barnett. And guess what? When it became clear that nothing would be, obtained from Great Britain and France, which, do not forget, at that time they were considered European superpowers. They were important, they were engines and things of this nature. And then, of course, we saw Mr. Chamberlain, who brought us, as he remember, he stated from Munich, the peace for our time. Guess what was the price of the peace? It was the dismemberment of Czechoslovakia. Not that the Czechs were necessarily big, good guys in many respects. And do not forget also, Poland also went to Czechoslovakia, took out Teschen region. And then we have this whole thing. And here sits Soviet Union, who understands that France and Great Britain sabotaged Soviet Union and its attempt to build their basically collective security. There was also the issue, let Red Army through Poland, not in Poland, but through Poland into Czechoslovakia. Obviously, Warsaw government refused. So what Stalin left with? Okay, here we are. This is the Soviet Union, and obviously the vector of the European politics becomes absolutely clear. It was about who is going to blink first between France and Great Britain and Soviet Union. France and Great Britain wanted Germany start with the Soviet Union, because everybody understood that Hitler's ambitions, where they were, and what was this all about. And again, there are the intelligence services and things of this nature. Plus, Soviet Union had actually the best intelligence service in the world at that time for a simple reason. It had the Comintern basically working for Soviet Union through the communist parties in the localities, and they knew this situation. And here what happens? Stalin have no choice. They contact Ribbentrop, they contact Hitler and say, okay, why don't we do this thing, And of course, who gets sacrificed? Poland gets sacrificed. And here, let me read you Kareli Barnett directly from his outstanding book. I mean, it's a basically immortal piece of the greatest British history ever written, And here it is. And on August 23, the Poles at last agreed to a formula according to which common action between Poland and the USSR against German aggression is not excluded. But it was all too late. On 23 August, Ribbentrop, the German foreign minister, and Molotov, the Russian foreign minister, signed a pact of friendship in Moscow. Publicly, it was a non-aggression pact. Secretly, Germany gave Russia all she wanted, all that France and England had dithered so long over giving: recognition of the Baltic states and Eastern Poland as a sphere of Russian expansion. It was only 9 days since Germany had first put forward suggestion of a Nazi-Soviet agreement, 3 days since Ribbentrop himself had arrived in Moscow. Germany, not France and England, had won Russia and won her by swift decision, prompt action, and realistic willingness to pay the full purchase price. So what happened in this case when this happened, as Kareli Barnett and any serious Western historians, which are shrinking in numbers today because what is taught in history in the Western universities for the most part is garbage, as are people who teach that. But the point was, what Stalin won he won more than just recognition of the Baltic states and Eastern Poland as the sphere of interest. What he won was that he reoriented vector of the future aggression of Nazi Germany towards the West. The same thing. He did the trick on them, the same thing which they were trying to do on the Soviet Union. They wanted Hitler to go first into the Soviet Union and basically bog down there, and they would be doing basically peripheral actions. But this completely overturned the whole dynamics of the European diplomacy at that time and changed the strategic picture. We know where it all ended up. He invaded Poland in 1939 with Soviet and Germany making the contact in the middle of Poland, and then turning west and destroying basically France and wiping their British troops, or basically sweeping them into the British Channel in the Dunkirk. And that gave Stalin about 2 years to prepare. And that's what was the game. And that's what many people do not want to recognize. But serious historians do recognize that. And that is why, for example, neither French nor British, they cannot forgive this to Stalin, and they cannot forgive this to Soviet Union, that they have been outplayed. And in the end, we know the result. It was the Red Army in Berlin in 1945.
Can you say the name of the author again, Andrei? Because people are asking. Okay, and the title of the book?
This one is Collapse of the British Power.
Okay, Collapse of the British Power, everyone.
It's one of the more, he has
you can look it up.
Yeah. And the whole vector of his was already then that neither France nor especially British understood the scale of the events, and that they were completely inadequate, and that British basically killed themselves, not understanding.
So let me ask you, thank you for explaining this, but let me ask you here. I'm trying to still understand this moment, okay? So we have German Nazi already in Poland. 12 days later, we have Ukrainians coming in. Stalin knows this because this was approved or allowed by the Austrian painter. So they went in. Now here is my question. If those militia or whatever it was, if they wouldn't go in, would Stalin still go in?
Yeah, it was the issue. Yeah, they were a secondary. Those were secondary things. They were local things. Do not forget Volyn massacre. Don't forget what those people. Yeah. So you have a wonderful eyewitness to actually to all this horror at that time, and none other than the hero of the Soviet Union, Mr. Miroslav Germashevsky, who was, of course, the Polish cosmonaut. And again, he was the son of the family which was massacred actually in the Volyn massacre by Ukrainian nationalists, So, but at that time, the considerations and the game was so huge already going on, because it was about survival of Europe as a whole, that it was kind of secondary issue. And the fact that Slovaks basically invaded Poland, it was kind of tit for tat, if you wish, So, and there was nothing really.
But so here also is another fact, and I didn't know it. Right before those militia, those groups went into Poland, they released. I mean, it's like deja vu, Andrei. We are living like deja vu now. They released prisoners just a few days before in Poland. They released them in those regions. And Polish government was already, by the 14th of September, which took time, by the way, to get to the border with Romania, Polish government was already sayonara, Poland.
Yeah.
So there was no one governing Poland. Nobody.
Essentially it was not. Yeah. And then It was obviously a tragedy. It was European tragedy, which could have been avoided, but it went the way it went. And by the way, releasing of their criminals and from prisons is one of the good old by the book scenario. This is what you do when you need to basically destabilize situation anywhere. What do? You release criminals. So this is one of the items, so to speak, on the checklist of how to destabilize the whole situation.
Yes, I was actually in California when Newsom did this 2 years ago, by the way. Well, almost 3 years. Yeah, that's what he did. He released like the biggest freaks, 50,000, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, sidetracking now, but still relevant.
Oh no, you are on point here. You are completely right here. The whole idea, of the Democratic Party, for example, in the United States, it's a party of chaos. They cannot govern because they are stupid, uneducated, and incapable. They don't have any other talents than re-elect themselves, and they are also only holding on to power. Period. And they do whatever is needed, to hold on to power. They sacrifice America. So there you go.
So here I have a question for you. That before we go into another big historical fact, or actually twisted fact, event, I was wondering this, Andrei, because when you ask just regular Polish citizen, right, they will tell you that they were under the Soviet occupation in Poland for so many years. And here is my question, just a common sense. Let's say I don't know anything at all, and I just want to understand why, after the World War II, there could not be a sovereign Poland, sovereign Bulgaria, sovereign Romania, just sovereign Eastern Bloc countries, but they were all devoted to one region and governed by that vision or suppression. And then we had the West, which was governed by another vision. So my question is, why did this happen? It's just common sense. Why Poland could not be Poland and other countries?
Buffer, first and foremost, cordon sanitaire for Soviet Union, which sustained horrendous losses. But Poland also, don't forget, while Poland losing some territories in the east, it also gained some territories on the west, which were cut out from Germany. So in this particular case, after the trauma, by the way, Polish people sustained horrendous losses on their part. But it has to be understood that Poland was a hostile state to the Soviet Union prior. And Russians, some of it justified, blamed part of the start of the World War II on the position of Poland, which actually, together with France and Britain, sabotaged the collective security attempts of the Soviet Union to contain Hitler. So, and once that became clear, and especially after basically surrendering Czechoslovakia to Hitler, the game changed and everybody became, everybody were for themselves, And after the war and after what Soviet Union sustained, and that was the only natural development of the events, to keep the Germany separated, not to allow German nationalism to flare again, and obviously denazify Germany, and to keep the Eastern European bloc countries as the strategic buffer. Do not forget, the largest Soviet army at that time, grouping abroad, was in Germany, in Eastern Germany. It was famous GSGV, so to speak. There were 1.2 million Russian troops, Soviet army troops stationed there. It was a huge concentration of forces until the end of the Soviet Union. And that's how important Soviet Union viewed what West has committed. And do not forget, we're talking about here also Churchill's famous Fulton speech, which of course was inspired by Mr. Truman, and the nuclear things. And when you begin to add this together, you suddenly have a completely new geopolitics starting in 1940s, which also was influenced not only by the huge trauma of the World War II. 27 million Soviet citizens died. but also by the nuclear war, and ranges of the new weapon systems which begin to appear in 1940s and 1950s, especially missile technology. And suddenly the Eastern Europe becomes extremely important in terms of maintaining this buffer. And do not forget, the overriding idea, national psyche in the Soviet Union was, after World War II, the never again. Never again Soviet Union will be caught by the surprise. Never again Soviet Union will believe completely what West does. Now, today, we see it all coming to fruition, and we know how it has been driven home, so to speak. So, as Russians have a wonderful proverb, and this is a very, very good proverb. It's profound. As Russians stated, everything communists told us about communism was a lie. Everything they told about West and capitalism turned out to be true.
So here is another question that maybe you didn't expect, and I didn't have it. It was just born from what you said. Let's say you meet an average Polish person and they look at Putin as if this is another version of Stalin, right? We have to talk like this, Andrei, because
sure. I have no problem, believe me.
I know you don't. You're the right person to have this conversation with. So, Andrei, if I approach you and I said, this is not coming from me, this is coming from majority of Polish citizens. What difference is between Putin and Stalin? Besides, we know, but let's say someone asks you this question. What makes Putin different from Stalin?
Never again the foot of the Russian soldier will step over Russian border. If Europe will burn tomorrow, let it burn. Least of all Russians are interested in providing any security or gaining territories anywhere. And here is the thing. Russians never lived as good as they live now. Why the hell Russia needs a bunch of freeloaders? Simple as that. And you have been to Russia, haven't you? Does it look like a miserable place?
And this is the key. Like I said this to many people. I said this. You have to go yourself and experience yourself to make your own opinion. Many people can do it, but they are not willing to, Andrei. You know,
yeah,
it does take courage. It does take courage, because you will be criticized, you will be called this or that, whatever. You spend money. You know, it's a hassle. It's a hassle. But if you really want to know, then go.
Yeah. Anya, I can tell you one thing. Russians today, on average, of course, Russia has its own social ills, so as anybody, you know, Russia has shitty places, you know, so it's absolutely normal for any country. Absolutely. The problem is what many do not understand. Russians live better than Germans now. And in 5 years, Germans, do you know how many actually Germans now want to go to Russia to live, permanent living? You won't believe it, but again, I actually did today is in my video, and it's a reference to Russian Germans who already moved, and they moving not only Russian Germans back to Russia, they move German Germans to Russia, and 2 million.
Wow, 2 million.
Yeah, and of course, why would Russia want Poland? Why would Russia want Czech Republic? Czech's main export is pornography. That's pretty much it. You know, they make cars, and this is their this is their main kind of focal point of the pornography making for, you know, for Europe, together with Netherlands. And when you look at this, Russians are not impressed. Average Russian from St. Petersburg or Chelyabinsk, or no matter how it's portrayed in The Family Guy, or let alone from Sochi, you've been there. You saw yourself. What? People don't care about Europe. Russians don't care about Europe because they're beginning to live better than Europe. France is burning. Let them freaking burn. it's going to be Islamized and Arab. It's not going to be a white French country very soon. It already has. They hide the statistics about the number of the Africans and Arabs who migrate to France. They hide it because it's not 10%. You know, everybody knows. Pardon my French. Paris is a shithole. It smells with urine. You know, and I remember my friends and. They would travel to France just for the vacation. They came back, said never again. You know, and
well, yeah, especially lately. I mean, I'm sorry, but you know, I used to love France.
Yeah, and the question is now, yeah, average Russian don't give a flying whatever, you know, about Europe and what they do there. Let them burn, let them go hungry, whatever. Russians done with Europe. That's the thing which they don't want. Poland is the same. Just let's erect the freaking iron curtain and be done with this. Nobody needs European culture. It's degenerate. European culture is degenerate. You know, it's basically it's pointing to where it's the whole point of the European elites, the legitimization and legalization of pedophilia. So, and that's what it is. So there you go. Let them do it. And that's the simple explanation. Russians live too well now to even care about Europe.
And I want to go back in the history now again, because I have this question, my eyes from the computer, phone, all of this. Okay. So I want to ask you about Katyn. So those of you who don't know, I will just give some, well, there were some facts. Who did it? It's another story, but I will say this, that Katyn massacre was a series of different executions that were taking place over some time, and approximately 22,000 Polish military officers and intelligentsia were killed. The time frame was around April, May 1940. Now, what I would like to ask you is this, Andrei. First, the Smolensk plane crash. Apparently, that was not Putin, it was Medvedev, then the president, but they were on the way to participate in those events to honor those people. That's tragedy, to give respect. However, I'm becoming more and more aware. There are more and more informations coming to me. Again, I didn't study this before, but it's coming to me that maybe it was not quite who did it. Okay? I just say this way. Who killed those officers? So let's say that was done by the Soviet army.
Some of it was. Some of it absolutely was. Some of it absolutely was.
But before I ask you, I want to ask you this here. Before you answer, I would like to know, because it says that there was an investigation done by the Soviet Union, and this is like 1990, 1991, and then the Russian Federation already, 91, 2004, that confirmed that it was Soviet responsibility for those massacres. So what was it? Was it just Soviets, or it was the Nazi and Soviets? How was this? What you know from your history? Because you know different books.
Well, first, part of it was definitely Soviet Union's culpability. You can also read about this in the memoirs by Sergo Beria, the son of Lavrenti Beria. But the issue of the mechanics of it, I don't know. I never really studied this issue. There's definitely the culpability of the Soviet Union, but it wasn't just the Soviet Union. It was the Nazi Germany which took part in this, and there were some other attempts to frame or put more blame for this. What are the proportions there? I don't know. So, but I mean, there was a part which Soviet Union basically played. Some new historians are coming up now and saying, there are some other issues which have to be resolved. I'm not specialist in this topic, But judging by the fact that Russians, Yeltsin evidently at some point of time he transferred documents to a Polish government, and how it went from there, I don't know. But it is what it is. It is what it is.
Andrei, it was in that time when this pact Ribbentrop-Molotov was still active.
Yeah, I think so. I believe the main reason I believe they stated for the execution and was the fact that the fear that those Polish officers and servicemen will actually take the part in the either ally themselves with Hitler or what was at that time pretty paranoid and suspicious atmosphere with the British and French. So it was it was sadly that's what it was. I don't even know how to explain it. So it is what it is. I mean.
Okay, now one more thing I want to ask you about Wolyn. About the time that was there is this confusion within me that I have, because as you know, many Polish heroes are not necessarily heroes, right? They have been presented like heroes, and we had Piłsudski. You know who was Piłsudski?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Now his involvement in those tragedies with Ukrainians, I think the more I'm learning now, I see how he was connected with the Wall Street and with America. So now he became a hero in Poland. But now, what do you think? The first World War ends. Poland shows up on the maps of history again. Poland exists again. We have those people put in power, right? Like Piłsudski and other people. So do you think they've done the same, like they put their puppets in that time to control?
Oh, it's possible, but we need to understand who Piłsudski was. He was a staunch Polish nationalist, but he was actually Polish imperialist. And Russians speak about this openly, and some people actually speak about this, how to put it, with understanding that Poland was the empire which didn't happen, so, and this from Morze to Morze, and things of this nature. So obviously the Polish decline started with Russia again, so, but prior to this, Poland was a European superpower, basically. And Piłsudski was the representative of this part of the, what Russians call Szlachta, and, the Polish aristocracy and Polish nationalists who wanted the empire. And Russia was viewed as the, basically, the obstacle to that. They dreamt about empire, So what can I say? It's that's who Piłsudski was, and his hatred of Russia was such that he would use any kind of tool, basically, to, in this case, to harm Russia or to prevent. The problem was, as is the case currently with most of Polish elite, they do not understand the scale of the events and the scale of the players who play this game, and Poland could use up could end up between the basically wheels of history and be, but it's entirely up to Polish people and Polish elite. And if they don't understand and don't learn, well, what can I say? So it's just the way it is. So it's that's how
because
it works.
Andrei, that's why I'm talking to you, because I see this is like a cycle again. Like we are turning this wheel again, like the Polish government many years ago, which I didn't know, they already prepared Polish speaking, prepared the evacuation plan in case when the shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
So we have the same what they have done before. And it's like Twilight Zone.
Yeah,
and
it
people
is.
don't see it. People don't see it, you know. And I don't know I don't think I even want to know everything what happened.
Oh, I
I'm
can
just
tell you it's very simple, extremely simple, actually. There is nothing to talk about. You remember the 600,000 Russians which are standing ready, in reserves? Guess what? When Ukraine, it's not if, it's already starting. When Ukraine begins to implode, I mean, seriously implode, and it's happening as I speak to you now. So, guess what's going to happen? There is a possibility, I don't know how probable it is, that Poland, Romania, well, Romania doesn't want to do this, but Poland is willing to actually go in Ukraine. And then guess what? It will be met by Russian army, how far they go. If they stay within the basically Kresy, Volhynia, sure. As I already stated, Russia doesn't need Western Ukraine. Nobody needs actually Western Ukraine except for Poland. And Poland will be getting people who are freeloaders. They are hostile to Poland. They will hate Poland, but they will be part of it. But it's the whole other thing. So what happens if Polish army tries to go further? Well, guess what? You know what happens then, and that's the, how to put it politely. Let's see the common sense in Warsaw, so triumphs for once, and we'll take it from
I
there.
don't believe there is any. I don't believe there is any.
Well,
No.
but you know what? Everybody wants to leave, and the question, obviously, that after
That's why they escape, Andrei. That's why they escape.
yeah, well,
They want to leave, so they escape.
of course they escape, but the point is, this is a different story. This is 21st century. We are looking at a complete remake of the balance of power. We're looking at a complete new technological paradigm. Nobody can escape anymore,
You're right. They're gonna chase them with iPhones and like on TikTok. There he is.
Everybody has their cruise missile with their specific names on it. Or if not, there are other ways. So, and that's what the people don't understand. You could do it in the 20th century, not anymore. Not anymore. And especially against such country as Russia, who has an excellent, one of the best, top two best ISR complex, which is intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. And by the way, Russian satellite constellation just continues to grow, apart from other things. So there you go. So where are they gonna run? And even nowadays, it just it's but then again, they are not smart people anyway. So.
But I want to end this life with a different direction on the map. Okay, how I put this? I'm having the sense, this is more like a intuitive sense, that what might happen is a conflict in the Middle East that will be first. And Poland will be engaged in that conflict with, as standing by Israel. That's where I'm going with this.
Okay.
That region might actually get Poland involved in it first. And then, like Ukraine kind of on the side a little bit for a moment. So I want to ask you, because I know that it's very, very hot spot right now, as always, but now especially with Palestine, Israel, that entire region, Iran, Iraq, all of this. How do you see that area, Andrei, and the involvement of European countries in it? That might escalate very quickly.
Yeah, let me put it this way. None of them have resources to be serious player there. None. United States still could play a little bit, and that's the whole thing. Just the news. Syria has been readmitted back to the League of the Arab States. Suddenly, Saudi Arabia and Iran are beginning to exchange pleasantries. We have a completely different dynamics. And in the end, to get involved into something, you have to have resources of an enormous scale. That's the whole thing. the times of the 20th century when you could have played some role. Today, you have to have an immense economic and military resources. Only 3 countries in the world have it. Europeans, by separation, France, Great Britain, they're pipsqueaks. They're nobodies, militarily and economically. It's again thing. I was speaking about this for years now. Now suddenly there, even International Monetary Fund admits it. Russian economy is much larger than the economy of Germany, and I'm talking about like much larger. Even IMF now admits in their latest 2022 that Russian economy larger by PPP. Nobody even uses, only idiots use the, like Paul Krugman or the morons with the Nobel Prize in economics use this nominal, dollar expression. But the point is, again, we have there a complete reshuffling, complete remake of the world order. And what can I say? It is just unbelievable how it turned around, and that's what people have to understand, and it's.
So, Andrei, next month in June, there is a meeting in St. Petersburg, right? They are all coming. BRICS, is it? I think BRICS, right?
BRICS,
it's a meeting for all of them. So two more thoughts of mine throw to you. Do you think this will be the breaking point with the financial system? And then, because in July there is a NATO summit again, so there will be some response. It's like a month later. Do you think this meeting in St. Petersburg next month, that summit, will be breaking point with the financial system, the structure? Are they ready, like, to go full in? And then you have NATO reacting to it.
Well, possible. It's possible that there will be some serious decisions made. But the point is, it's already happening as we speak right now. It's been happening for the last year. You know that the dollar on the international exchanges and payments, it dropped below 50% now. It's going to drop even more. And the point is, it doesn't matter what the United States does now. It's really, again, as I already stated, Stalin once was asked during the World War II, how you gonna, go about the fact that you need to engage Pope, with his influence over Catholic world and things like that, and that Pope can make this and that. And Stalin question was very simple. Do you know what he asked? He asked, how many divisions does Pope have? That's what it is. And nobody cares about currencies anymore.
But Vatican has money, the bank.
Well, that's
all about. There are many other things I don't want to say here because people think I'm delusional and like
no, those money.
Not.
Okay, let me put it this way. When you don't have food and nobody sells it to you, how much worth your money? How much your money worth? They're useless, basically. And this is what happens to the United States. 70% of the world's industrial production and resources are concentrated in the BRICS nations now. Don't forget, Iran, 70%. Saudi Arabia, Argentina are being admitted to BRICS as we speak. There is a line. 85 states want to become BRICS members. You have to understand, we have the removal of the completely corrupted United Nations and completely perverted. And we have the reconstitution of the new world order based on the BRICS and Shanghai Cooperation Organization. And again, people do not even understand the scale of things. China dwarfs United States economically. It also dwarfs Europe, China alone. And when you look separately at, let's say, Germany, it's a pipsqueak. They are being rolled into basically they will become at some point of time the industrialized and agricultural nation, and they are doing it to themselves. We have the Europe, which completely went nuts. And Russians do not want to deal with this madhouse. The asylum was taken over, and the patients are in charge. And that's it. It's over. It's done. And that's my fourth book, which I'm working on. Those people don't understand what real economy is. They don't understand what real military power is. They just don't. They have no clue about it. They live into this, fairy tales which have been told to them by all those imbeciles produced from the humanities faculties of the Ivy League and all this garbage education from Great Britain. They are incapable of mopping floors, for crying out loud, or mowing the lawn, and you have these imbeciles. They are literally imbeciles. Look at von der Leyen or Borrell. You probably saw yourself, like yesterday, basically, Minister of the Foreign Affairs of India lectured Borrell. He actually shut him down. He told him to shut up and go, pound sand. That's what we have now. And who the hell they are? They are nobodies. Militarily, economically, what France? Yeah, French perfumes. Yeah, they make those fast trains. That's about it. Yeah, the only thing they have is Airbus, period. The rest of it, who needs them? They're nobodies. They have no resources. Their culture is degenerate. It's basically now Islamic Arabic culture. So what do you want? Look at the national team of France in football. As they funny, they now want to promote it. League One, the LGBT? They have to wear LGBT things. The footballers, good luck with them. So they voted for it. No matter how you say it, no matter how you try to interpret it, they voted for it. And those people better understand that you have to carry bear the consequences of your actions. Russians voted for Yeltsin second time in '96. Well, Zyuganov really won the elections, but Russians didn't, go out in force to change it, because Zyuganov kind of won it by a small margin, and he conceded because he knew that he will be killed or something like that. He is a coward. He always was. But the point is, Russians learned their lesson. If Europe doesn't learn, so it's done. It's over. So
I want to read a comment because this acknowledges you. And one more question before I let you go, Andrei. So Mehdi said that author Andrei Martyanov has been warning the West about reality for many years in his books. Buy them. That's right. The links are below the video to buy those books. And the new one will be coming. Andrei, one more question is about United States. Do you think US still has any influence over countries that can make any difference in the future?
Yeah, the United States completely controls Europe right now. And Europe is America's lunch. It will be eaten and is being eaten as we speak. While the United States needs to eat too, As I already stated, I am on the record and I speak about it constantly, nonstop. Even if you take a position, objective, okay, and it's cynical position, it's very bad in terms of morality. But for example, Americans need to eat too, and situation is very bad economically in the United States now. It will get much worse. So what do? Do you care about Europeans? No. What you need to do, you need to provide them with. America has some resources, unlike Europe, and America will be selling their natural gas and other products and resources 4 times the price Europe had it before from Russia. Even this idiot Borrell admitted that for 50 years we have been prosperous because Soviet Union and Russia were supplying us with cheap energy. Now Europe is getting very expensive, between 4 and 7 times energy from the United States. United States allows it to prolong its agony a little bit, but Europe will be killed. And so Germany is being industrialized as we speak, and United States, this build back better and all those financial incentives. It tries to get some German industries into the United States, but yeah, it's pretty much self-evident.
But Asia as well, right? What is the influence, like Thailand and other countries in Asia, Andrei?
Well, US influence. They won. Those stooges won in Thailand I believe. But Thailand, actually, let's not over dramatize its importance. In a sense, it's a large population, definitely there. But who really matter in Asia, in East Asia, are, of course, China, which America's number one now, Japan, and to a certain degree, Vietnam and Indochina, as we speak about. Indonesia, yeah, it's a large country. It has potential, but it's still kind of, in a little bit of the rut. Philippines are, they're America's shields. Basically, they are owned by the United States, but it makes no difference militarily and economically now, because United States doesn't have industry it used to have. United States also was deindustrialized catastrophically for the last 30 years, actually more than that. And what can I say? It's what you produce and what you have as resources which matters. Money do not matter, really. Again, you saw yourself what happens when $3 million Russian missile blew out $1.5 billion of American grossly overvalued, grossly overstated technologies. And there you go. It's actions which matter. It's material things which matter and which define basically also spiritual content of the nation.
Yes, the soul.
The soul of the nation.
The soul of the nation. Exactly.
American
Andrei, one more
soul
question.
was.
I always say my last question, but it just keeps on coming.
Sure.
One more question I have. Do you think it will go nuclear?
No, I don't think so. Everybody wants to live, and first you have to understand the neocons, despite the fact that they are fanatics, but somebody already probably telling them that you know what, you have the personal cruise missiles, with your names on it, or you can have, they're not gonna this talks about that they buy, which they do, buying properties in Patagonia or New Zealand. It means,
what kind of life after this? Like, what a life.
Yeah, I mean, it means absolutely nothing. Russia has a wonderful nuclear power submarine fleet and wonderful missiles which can travel around the world, actually, like Sarmat. So they're not going to save themselves. And some of them, and Yakons are cowards, most of them anyway, because they are, pussies, wusses, produced by the same Ivy League school who never experienced any difficulty in their life. And so, yeah, somebody will explain to them, and United States is not defended. So yeah, I doubt it. There is certainly a chance, but
So the cloud is approaching. Someone comment about the cloud. Cloud is approaching from our east neighbors.
Yeah, there was a spike. Yeah, there was a spike, I believe, in radiation. How dangerous it is? Definitely.
I survived Chernobyl. So
yeah, so I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. It's as dangerous as Chernobyl, and but it's obviously a very unpleasant situation, no doubt about it.
Yes, no, I'm not laughing at it, but it's just, we have to be optimistic. Andrei, really from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for your time.
It's my pleasure, Anya. It's my pleasure.
And for answering the questions, and I'm sure I will have more questions. It's just I have to break it into doses, because otherwise,
No, you can do it. Yeah, no problem.
It's heavy stuff. Everyone, thank you so much for being with us here, for watching. Please check out Andrei's YouTube channel as well. You actually have, when you look at the title of our live, you just click on the name of the channel next to Andrei's name, and you're right there. So, and then you just subscribe and watch, and you can support Andrei. You have the links. You can buy good coffee, and make sure it's good coffee, and the books as well. Thank you, Andrei. Thank you, everyone, for watching.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.